Later, he was already losing territory as his war plans start to look in serious trouble. This morning, Ukrainian troops on the march, reclaiming key areas from Russia in the south and east, liberating the strategic city of Liman in the Donbass, one day after Putin declared the area annexed and part of Russia. Soldiers raising the blue and yellow of the Ukrainian flag, celebrating an important victory. Liman was a vital transportation and logistics hub for Russia. Losing it is another major setback for the Kremlin's military supply lines in their efforts to secure the Donbass region. Russia's campaign has suffered.
Sometimes you treat chat like shit, hurt specifically for those who see you as their favorite streamer. Okay, take a second off and reconsider what you just said. Okay, I'm covering the news. Covering the news. Time and place, 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 time and place. This community runs on back and forth interaction. So therefore, I always expect you to conduct yourself in a certain way that is complementary, okay, to the content, to the material. Okay? Stop being parasocial and whining about it.
Major setbacks this fall. On almost every front, Putin's army is in real difficulty, struggling to hold on to territory it's occupied.
No amount of shambolic mobilization, which is the only way to describe it, no amount of annexation, no amount of even veiled nuclear threats can actually get him out of this particular situation.
Russia's brutal and indiscriminate tactics claiming more civilian lives. 2 humanitarian convoys shelled in just over a week. Investigators discovering the gruesome aftermath of this attack that left 24 people dead, including 13 children and a pregnant woman. We see some of the destruction the war has brought this town. When Ukrainian troops swept through here in their counter-offensive, it unleashed a chain of events. Putin mobilizing troops, annexing parts of Ukraine, even threatening to use nuclear weapons. What lies ahead is a more difficult and more dangerous period in this war. So I think the question now is, how does Putin respond? We've heard the threats that he's made about defending these new territories by...
Okay. Consent manufacturing happened in the beginning stages of this fucking war, okay? On both sides. Russia tried to act like he wasn't doing a war. Russia tried to act like Vladimir Putin tried to act like he wasn't trying to overtake the entirety of Ukraine all the way to Kyiv, and that this was just a tactical retreat when he wanted to reinforce the eastern flank and the eastern front. Okay? That consent manufacturing part already happened. It occurred. The Western state media apparatus, or with the state apparatus, alongside the state apparatus, Western media was basically saying, you know, Ukraine is owning, Ukraine is owning, Ukraine is owning, Ukraine is owning, when Ukraine was not owning, okay? Now we've gotten to a point where Russia has solidified its... What? Bro, U.S. is fault reaction, fuck Putin, guilting meaning? What? What are you saying? Shut up. Stop saying weird shit.
Hell yeah, brother.
Russia has always held that it does want to take Kyiv. It's the only West that says they want all of Ukraine. That it does not want to take Kyiv. It doesn't matter. They were bombing Western fronts. They were bombing Western locations. Okay, Ukraine wasn't doing great. Obviously, no, you can't really do great when you're getting fucking invaded. You know, no matter what happens. And now Ukraine actually is performing very well as a consequence of the HIMARS, as a consequence of all the weapons that they're getting, small arms and also large arms. Weapon systems that they're getting from the West. Okay? But if you think that this is, at this stage, consent manufacturing, I don't know what to tell you. It's not. I mean, Ukrainian forces are using everything they can in their fucking power, in their arsenal, to take back some of the territories that they had to retreat from Russian bombing campaigns. Not only is shit not going so well for Russia, if you want further proof that things are not going well for Russia, I mean, you have the forced conscriptions that are happening. That's number one. You don't do that when you're winning. And number two, you have Putin talking about nuclear warfare again. Okay? The idea of, like, if you don't let me win, I'm going to fucking do nukes. I'm going to do the nukes. You called this in February. I did. But everyone only remembers me saying it would be, they don't remember me saying it would be insane and it would be impossible and it would be horrifying for Vladimir Putin to try to overtake Ukraine, a country with 44 million citizens, with its nation-state project being, with its nation-state project hinging on, owning Russians. But it doesn't matter. Everybody only fucking hyper-focused on the other side where I was like, Putin is not crazy enough to actually fucking go and HasanAbi is Nazball gang? What? Ew. The fucking least nationalist motherfucker on the planet. Anyway. So now things are going not great at all and really poorly. Part of the one of the things that Putin has done is in the LPR, DPR regions institute these elections. The elections results are going to be overwhelmingly in support of Russia. That's the reason why they were held to begin with. Okay, but part of that is because of the mass amount of displacement that already occurred. You bomb the shit out of the areas. You literally have ongoing conflict in the region. Of course, they're now just exclusive. The people left behind are your people. That doesn't mean that it's adequate. That doesn't mean it's right. Anyway, let's continue with this. I gotta grab my food real quick.
By all available means, even making nuclear threats. But for the Ukrainian soldiers here, they won't stop. And what they say is that they're going to drive every Russian from every bit of their land. And for now, it's the Ukrainians who've got the momentum. George?
Ian Panel, thanks very much. Let's bring in the top spokesman for the National Security Council, John Kirby. John, you just heard Ian Panel right there saying the Ukrainian forces are not going to stop. How do you assess their gains?
They're quite impressive, I think. No question about that when you look at the northeast part of the country, George. Now they are pushing up against the Luhansk Oblast, which will most likely be their next goal here. And of course, that's one of the oblasts that Putin tried to annex late last week. They are also making gains in the south, George. Incremental to be sure, but they are making gains in their counteroffensive down in the south in the Kherson Oblast, and not too far from the city of Kherson. So they are absolutely on the move here, and like you've heard President Biden say, we're going to continue to make sure we can give them the weapons and capabilities they need to continue that kind of progress.
I was going to ask you about that. There are new reports of those gains in Kherson this morning. Is the Russian hold on Kherson, a key strategic city, under threat?
I don't know that I'd go so far as to say it's under threat this morning, George. Again, the progress they've made down in the south has been fairly incremental, but it has been positive progress. There's no question about it.
What do you make of this new nuclear threat that Vladimir Putin launched on Friday? He had a wild speech there on Friday as well. You've talked about severe consequences if he actually follows through with it. Does that mean a NATO attack on every Russian conventional force inside Ukraine?
I don't think we're at a position now where we can talk about that kind of an outcome, George. I mean, these kinds of threats, first of all, they're consistent with the way he's been talking for the last 7 months. And secondly, they are continuing to be irresponsible rhetoric coming from a nuclear power. There's no reason for him to use that kind of bluster, those kinds of threats. We have to take those threats seriously. We must. It'd be easy if we could just blow it off, but we can't. These are serious threats made by a serious nuclear power. So we're watching this as best we can. Now, what it'll mean in the future, we just don't know. But we've got to make sure that, as President Biden said, that we are ready and prepared to defend every inch of NATO territory. And that Mr. Putin understands how seriously we take our Article 5 commitments to the alliance.
In the midst of these threats, we're seeing fierce criticism of Vladimir Putin and his military strategy now, even from inside Russia. Calls for military commanders to be sacked. How unusual is this? How serious a threat is it to Vladimir Putin?
I think it's noteworthy for sure. I mean, over the last 7 months, you haven't seen these kinds of fractures and fissures inside Russia. You're talking about elected municipal officials that are speaking out. Obviously, average Russians speaking out and protesting the mobilization. And now you have people in the information space in Russia, usually pro-Kremlin voices, who are now criticizing the government's handling of the war in Ukraine. It's significant. Now, how Mr. Putin reacts to that is of course, an unknown. We don't know how he's going to take all this external criticism. But I think it's also important, and sometimes we forget that in just the last couple of weeks, two of his major countries who have been at least providing some tacit support, India and China, have publicly spoken out against what he's doing in Ukraine and done so right in front of him publicly. So he's losing a lot of sympathetic ears, not only in Russia, but outside Russia as well.
John Kirby, thanks as always.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts.
Jeffrey Sachs on Nordstrom's destruction.
Destruction of the Nord Stream pipeline, which I would bet was a U.S. action, perhaps U.S. and Poland. This is
right, Jeff, we got to stop there. That's quite a statement as well. Why do you feel that was a U.S. action?
Come on, bro.
What evidence do you have of that?
Well, first of all, there's direct radar evidence that U.S. Helicopters, military helicopters that are normally based in Gdansk, were circling over this area. We also had the threats from the United States earlier in this year that one way or another we are going to end Nord Stream. We also have a remarkable statement by Secretary Blinken last Friday in a press conference. He says, this is also a tremendous opportunity. It's a strange way to, it's a strange way to talk if you're worried about the piracy on international infrastructure of vital significance. So I know this runs counter to...
That's so crazy, man. I can't believe it. There's no way it was America or America-aligned units. I mean, that'd be crazy. What? U.S. and Poland? That's a vast overestimation of Polish abilities? Yeah, no shit, brother. But that doesn't matter. Everything in that region that is done against Russia is being done by pro-America and America-trained, American weapons, and are people who are trained by Americans. Like, it's not like the Polish submarine force is responsible single-handedly for it. They didn't get a couple Polish motherfuckers riding on, sea lions to go and throw stones at the fucking pipeline, brother.
Dank Hackermans.
You know what I mean? For what? I'm on a jet ski.
To our narrative, it runs. You're not allowed to say these things in the West. But the fact of the matter is, all over the world, when I talk to people, they think the U.S. did it. And just to tell you, and by the way, even reporters on our papers that are involved tell me privately, yeah, well, of course, but it doesn't show up in our media.
Professor, I don't want to get into tit for tat about what did or did not.
Anyway. What's your stance on the nuclear stuff? I mean, I think nuclear saber rattling is fucking terrifying. I don't know what Putin's going to do. Only Putin knows what Putin's going to do. Pooty poo. Anyway, let's hear what the United States has to say about it, though.
The U.S. is developing contingency plans for possible Russian escalation in its war in Ukraine, including the potential use of tactical nuclear weapons. Also, the possibility of what one source described as a nuclear display. That would be something short of a nuclear strike, including the possibility of a military strike on the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Joining me now to discuss, retired Brigadier General Mark Kimmett. He's former Assistant Secretary of State for Political Military Affairs, also former Deputy Director for Plans and Strategy at U.S. CENTCOM. General, good to have you on this morning.
Hi, Jim. How are you?
So this shows how seriously the U.S. is taking these Russian nuclear threats. They've been developing contingency plans for some time. I wonder, can you describe what such contingency plans might involve?
Well, I think...
It's like, bro, come on. What kind of defenses do we have? Hold up. No, but for real, come on, dude. Just give us the nuclear defenses.
First of all, there's the public face of all of this, which is how we communicate to Russia what we're prepared to do, what we're not prepared to do. My personal view is I think we ought to be deliberately vague on what we are prepared to do. Anytime you draw a red line, that commits you to a certain course of action. Look, I think it's fairly simple to lay down the options. It could be the soft side of it, which is doubling down on sanctions, doubling down on export controls, ranging all the way to a nuclear response of our own and everything in between.
Wow.
It would be likely that this president is not looking at the far end of that, sort of looking at a response in kind, but not with nuclear weapons. Hard
Understood.
Strikes on Russian facilities inside of Ukraine, most likely.
Hey, definitely never hard strikes on infrastructure on global seas. Like, for example, a pipeline. That would never happen. I just want to point out, America hasn't done that and will certainly not do that, surely.
That's exactly how General Petraeus described it. He said, hypothetically, and again, he's not basing this on any public, revelation of intelligence, we would respond by leading a NATO collective effort that would take out every Russian conventional force that we could see and identify on the battlefield in Ukraine, also in Crimea. Does that sound like the response you'd be thinking of?
Well, I certainly don't have a vote in the matter, but I think that's certainly one of the options they'd be considered, and I'm glad to see I'm in good company as Dave Petraeus.
Let me ask you this then, because a concern from the start of this war, which has qualified really every U.S. NATO step in response to the Russian invasion, the quality of weapons, the range of weapons, the degree of military support for Ukraine, has been concerns about sparking a broader war with Russia. For instance, that's why the idea of a no-fly zone was eliminated, because that would be putting NATO warplanes in direct conflict with Russian forces. Would a response like this, and this has to be part of the calculation, right? There's a risk of sparking a broader war, is there not?
Brother, if they launch nukes, it's over. What do you mean no-fly zone? It's more like all nuke zone. This stream, if nukes are used, 350K viewers. Yeah, we'll have a banger end to the world, you know what I mean? We'll watch it. That's how it works. There's no world in which it's like, oh, we're going to do a baby nuke, and then you guys will do like a little bit larger of a baby nuke, and then it'll be fine. It's like one nuke is all nukes. Dua Lipa said it best. One nuke is all it takes. Falling in love with me. Possibility. That's what that was about.
There certainly is. But I heard a description of Putin yesterday that I thought was particularly apt. He started off as an autocrat, became a dictator, and now he's a madman.
Wow.
He may be a madman, but I don't think he's suicidal. I don't believe that he wants to be the leader of Russia.
Brother, I said that too. Let me tell you something. People love bringing that up still.
Russia that ends the Russian Federation. So I think we ought to take his threats seriously, but I don't think we should be cowed or coerced into any particular action as a result.
And I should note, and this is in our story this morning, that the U.S. to date has not detected any movements of Russian nuclear forces or weapons that would indicate that such an attack is imminent. I do want to talk about the battlefield right now and Ukrainian progress, because we saw that rapid advance in the northeast at the start of this counteroffensive. Now we're seeing, if not quite rapid advance, but still substantial advance in the south around Kherson. How bad is the situation for Russia and its forces? Have we seen the beginning of a broader retreat here?
That's hard to say, Jim, because if you look at it from classic military analysis, the Russians should be doing far, far better. A quantitative assessment says that the Russians have the advantage. But it's the intangibles that we're seeing on the battlefield, the morale of the Ukrainians, the equipment they have, the leadership that they have versus
the brain rot.
Oh man, it's like it's literally the weapons, dog. That's it. It's the weapons. They have a fucking endless funnel.
20 holy hell, you're the man.
There's enough people who honestly and legitimately and earnestly want to defend their country. So there's that. And that is going to happen when you get invaded.
10-month brain rot, let's go.
And weapons.
the exact opposite on the side of the Russians. I don't think you can take a conventional military ruler and measure this as well as may have been in the past. I don't particularly think there's going to be a breakout anytime soon, but there will be continued pressures on the Russians, both in the north and the south.
Brigadier General Mark Kimmett, good to have you on this morning. Thanks so much.
Hi.
The New York Times reporting this. In background conversations, a range of officials suggested that if Russia detonated a tactical nuclear weapon on Ukrainian soil, the options included unplugging Russia from the world economy or some kind of military response, the one that would most likely be delivered by the Ukrainians with Western-provided conventional weapons. Joining us now, one of the reporters behind this story, CNN political and national security analyst David Sanger. This is such a great story, I think, because it really puts us in the moment that we're in, which is kind of an alarming one, although you also do point out, for instance, that there are some reasons why senior officials are saying not to be.
Have you considered that Ukrainians got that dog in them? Brother, no matter what happens, when you're fucking backed into a corner, you got to have that dog in you. You know what I mean? That's what it is for them. It's life or death.
Yes, but culture.
That's why they got that dog in them.
I was worried it'd tune in and you'd be talking about Fortnite or something. One year of cured brain rot, Pog.
The invading force has logistical hurdles to overcome that they're having a hard time overcoming, and the defending force has an incredible amount of help that it's getting from the international community.
Fully concerned at this point in time, but just put into context where we are.
Well, I think where we are, Brianna, is that this is probably one of the most fraught nuclear moments since the Cuban Missile Crisis, which was 60 years ago this month. That said, there's no evidence right now that we see the Russians moving any tactical weapons. They're small, so it might be easy to miss them, but there is no evidence of that at this point. And they don't believe that Putin yet has his back so up against the wall that he would turn to this. It's also not entirely clear how much using a tactical weapon would help him on the battlefield, except to try to freeze things, to basically say to the Ukrainians, if you make one more move toward throwing us out of the Donbass or these other areas, just know that I can take out your entire country and turn it all into wasteland. But the consequences for Putin would be high.
David, surely Putin knows among those consequences would be global condemnation, right? That, you know, there are still some countries that he has somewhat on his side, including China. He must know that he would very quickly lose that support if he were to do anything on the nuclear front.
I think that's right, Alex. He would. And, you know, China and India are two countries that are continuing to buy oil, for example, and not part of the major sanctions regime. At the same time, what worries most American officials is what happens when Putin comes to the conclusion that the war is going so badly that it's an existential threat not only to Russia,
Sending love
but to
from
him
Iowa has silly.
and to his own rule. And at that moment, he may reach for whatever he has got. Now, he may also think that over time, other countries have broken taboos and gotten away with it. You notice it in the speech. The first thing that the one
Broken
last week,
taboos.
first thing he said was, there was Hiroshima, there was Nagasaki, and you set a precedent when you did.
Homie's talking about nuking civilian populations. He said broken taboos, bro. This is why, like, I always say America and Russia, or American imperialist leadership and Russian irredentist actions are like this, okay? It's like this. Straight up. Because like they're talking about they're talking the same game. The only difference is like obviously America is the global superpower, so it doesn't matter. They can do whatever the fuck they want. You know what I mean?
Did that.
Yeah, that is so alarming because that's part of what has been this campaign of rationalization, right? Where he's saying, oh, they set the precedent. The U.S. set the precedent. He's also, on this rationalization, had these illegal annexations of these 4 areas of Ukraine. And when you look at Russian military doctrine, and he keeps reemphasizing this, as have other Russian officials, nuclear weapons can be used if there is an existential threat to Russia. And now it seems to be the rationalization is, oh, well, this is Russia. So if you go after this, yeah, we could use a nuke.
Right. That is the backwards rationalization. It would also seem to apply to Crimea. And of course, we've seen the Ukrainians attack Crimea, and he's not reached for nuclear weapons at that moment. You know, the oddity of all of this, Brianna, is that nuclear weapons are one of those things that are much more powerful in the perspective, in the threat that you might use it, than they are when you actually go off to use it. And this is not like the old Cold War days where the concern was they would lob a nuclear weapon at the United States, and in return for New York, you take out Moscow or whatever. In this case, he's talking about using a small weapon. Days where the concern was they would lob a nuclear weapon at the United States, and in return for New York, you take out Moscow or whatever. In this case, he's talking about using a small weapon that would be used on presumably a military base, maybe a low populated area. The West is not
cool.
Whatever, dude. You know, back in the day, that was the stakes. You know, we would just talk about stuff like that. Now we're just talking about like baby nukes. Just a little nukey poo.
Going to fire a nuclear weapon back in return for that. They may.
The threat of nukes is the main usage of nuclear power. That's all he said, and your dumb chat is confused. No matter what happens, it's still pretty bad.
At HasanAbi, can you read my message?
Actually, as we reported, use conventional weapons. There could be some kind of a military response, but not a nuclear response. And so he may well think that, over time, he would get away with this. He also thinks that over time, the West is going to lose interest in Ukraine, that as the winter sets in Europe, the interest in continuing the sanctions is going to diminish. You've already seen protests in Europe about high prices and
I
shortages.
gave you the Armenian card,
so
but you
he's
never
betting
used it,
that we'll lose
WTF,
interest.
man.
The Ukrainian army made another substantial gain over the weekend. It retook the eastern city of Lyman just hours after Russia illegally claimed it as part of its sham referenda. CNN's Nick Payton-Walsh and his team.
They're about to be like, damn, dude, Ukrainian forces are actually advancing on Russian territory. This one brilliant tactic makes it so that now Ukrainian forces are actually inside of Russian borders now, because that's Russian territory now.
Looking beautiful today.
No, the noise gate is still off. I just clicked a little bit to see if it was off. It's still fucking off. Okay. chatter.
Congrats on being bronze 3 Pogu.
It's still on.
Team were on the ground there just moments after the Ukrainian president confirmed Russia had moved out. Nick, give us the latest.
Yeah, Brianna, we're the first television crew into Le Mans to see the devastation caused by this onslaught back and forth, but also see how ghostly empty it was and hear from locals the possibility that some Russian troops did in fact manage an orderly withdrawal roughly at about the same time that their commander-in-chief, Russian President Vladimir Putin, was standing on a stage and rallying people towards victory, signing pieces of paper declaring where I'm standing and Le Mans falsely to be part of Russian territory. An extraordinary paradox there that goes to the heart, perhaps, as why this is such a strategic defeat for Russia. Here's what we saw.
It may not look like much, but this is where Putin's defeat in Donetsk began. A prize from the last century, perhaps. But trains and tracks are still how Russia wages war today. Le Mans, what's left of it, now freed of Russia.
Well, this is what it was all about. The central railway hub, here now in Ukrainian hands and devastated by the fighting. And this was such a seminal part of Russia.
Discord is paywalling Ches. Bro, the Twitter link that you just sent me is by a man named ISIS member. Like, I'm not clicking on that. I don't know what the fuck's going on there, but Twitter account ISIS member posted the most fire tweet. It's like, I'm not touching that. That's my Kanye West fan, by the way.
Donos, we need to rise up against Lausanne. All that hard work, sweat and tears we give to him.
Russia's occupation.
Yeah, FBI trying to catch me slip. Dude, FBI guy in the chat like, hey, click on this ISIS member account. It's pretty funny, right? Fucking got him, boys! He clicked on it!
Prime sub since Mrs. Can called.
Donetsk and Luhansk. The concern for Moscow is the knock-on effect this is going to have for their forces all the way to the Russian border.
On the town's edges, we saw no sign of the hundreds of Russian prisoners or dead that had been expected to follow Moscow's strategic defeat here, nor inside it either. Perhaps they have already been taken away. Instead, utter silence. Only local bicycles on the streets. Several residents told us the Russians actually left in large numbers on Friday.
They left in the night and the day, people said. I didn't see it myself, but they say they sat on their APCs and their bags were falling off as they drove. They ran like this.
It would be remarkable timing that Russia fled Le Mans in the very same hours that Putin was signing papers declaring here Russian territory and holding a rally on Red Square. A similar story in the local administration, where the only signs of Russia left are burned flags. They ran away without saying a word to anybody, he says. It's bad. No work, no gas, no power, nothing. The shops didn't work. It truly feels as if there is nobody left.
A ghostly silence here, apart from occasional shelling and small arms fire. And it is, for so much of this town, utterly destroyed. So many locals, we're told, leaving when the Ukrainian push towards it began. But now it's just this utter ghostliness in a place that's such a strategic defeat for Russia.
Gunfire in the distance. They're nervous. Some Russians may be left. Outside what's left of the court, the constant change and violence is too much for some. Her husband just arrested.
Понимаете, сказать вам правду. Шапку снимаешь, шапку одеваешь. Шапку снимаешь, шапку одеваешь. Что это за жизнь? 72 года, 73-й год. Я не могу спокойно, как крыса в подвале. С подвала вылазить.
Сказать,
а что ж это такое?
Только вы же это не покажете, понимаете? Вы это не покажете. Вчера Украина зашла, проверила документы.
Забрала мужчину, пропал мужчина. Мужчина пропал. Вот это здорово дело. Здорово дело. Шапки одно, шапки снимают.
А люди страдают, блин. Одни бьют, другие бьют. А мы плачем. Когда он такое? Еще не узнали.
The Ukrainian troops we did see had already stopped celebrating. There is little time. They're on the move again. Another Russian target further east, Kremina, in their sights. And those left in Liman, a town cursed.
It was not pro-Russian sympathizers, were they?
Has flex.
No, man. People are fucking sick and tired. They don't want the Ukrainian government to come in and be like, all right, you might be a pro-Russian sympathizer. You're going to jail. They don't want the Ukrainian government to be like, hey, we're forcing you to fucking go to war. They certainly don't want the Russian government to come in and be like, hey, you know, you're Ukrainian. We're going to fuck with you. We're going to jail you. It's just, that's the reality of war. The real working class people, the regular working class people get fucked over. They either get forced into conscription, they get forced into service, or they get killed.
3 head.
There's no good side in this circumstance. I mean, there is. Obviously, there is a real and legitimate need for emancipation and to purge the country of invading forces. Obviously, there is a less evil side, okay? Less awful side. But ultimately, that's why I always say at the top of the hour, there's a 6-second ad break. If you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe. There is no good side in that. Okay, all jokes aside, before I do the fucking segue, I'm going to get back to that. I know that was fucked up. Here's what I will say. Okay?
Here we go again.
That is why people constantly talk about ways of ending this conflict. One way of ending this conflict, all ways of ending this conflict is through treaties, okay? Ceasefire agreements, treaties, and de-escalation. It's never by adding more guns into the pile and pushing further, whether it be Russia, pummeling and adding more conscripted forces into the fucking fight and galvanizing trying to galvanize the support internally.
25 months, Sam.
And same goes for the Ukrainian side as well. It's not going to happen like that. It's going to happen with either one side overpowering the other. Okay. Going to happen either with one side overpowering the other, but ultimately still coming to a treaty, coming to the table and negotiating the conditions of surrender. Or it's going to end with just all-out nuclear warfare. Full-blown. Nukes everywhere. 106 chatters rated this ad segue an average of 5.4546 out of 10. Today's best at 646. Nice one, Hasi. Okay, that was a really good fucking ad segue that I did. So good that I had to literally stop myself in between. Okay, the fact that you consider that to be a 5.46 is mind-boggling to me. I'll just straight up say it. I think that's bullshit that you think that it's a 5.46. You're wrong. Okay? That was a great fucking segue. That was a 10-10.
You're so hot.
Okay? And the feeling of 10-10 is the same kind of feeling, the same kind of 10-10 feeling you get when there's a top of the hour ad break and you no longer have to see those ads because you have subscribed for $5 or for free with the Twitch Prime. Is that a real bot? What the fuck? Yes, it is. It was an all-time low segue. Yeah, I mean, it was fucked up, but it was a good segue. It fucked you up. All right? It fucked you up. One pog is all it takes. Thank you for the 5 get subs. Pose XX, thank you for the 5 get subs as well. Allowing 10 people to no longer see the ads. Here's the 1 minute ad break now.
To have these bars of rusting steel running through it, are gathering the ruins to burn for fuel with winter ahead. Left in the wake of Russia's collapse here, a town they took weeks to occupy,
now this
but
is
only hours to leave. Now, the staggering military defeat that's seeing a knock-on.
It was a low blow. Doesn't matter. It got you the knockout. All people remember is the dirty play. Listen, I'm teaching you a valuable lesson, okay? Don't trust content creators. Get it twisted. Get it twisted. Start using a nuke. Use a nuke. Please start using nukes. Nuclear missiles are an investment and an investment only. You will be victorious. You will win. You will do all of that. You understand? you will become a hegemonic power again and rebuild your fucking empire.
Effect already towards Russia's borders, as you heard there, but there's political consequences too. Open bickering amongst Russia's elite, criticism in the Russian state media, even now.
If last month taught me anything about content creators, is that I don't trust any of you. Man, I've been consistent for 10 fucking years. I don't give a fuck if you don't trust me. At least you know that I will be consistent no matter what. Okay? Maybe I have consistently bad qualities. Okay? Like I might be too trusting and I might get owned regularly for that. Okay? But ultimately, I'm still consistent. Yeah, consistently. Sugma. Wait, what's Sugma? Whoa, suck my balls, no!
Remarkable comments from the Kremlin spokesperson saying that they are still discussing with the local populations of the areas of Zaporizhia and Kherson that they occupy exactly how much of those areas, in their mind, are now Russian territory. Utter disarray, frankly, from their political standpoint and their military one too, and also suggestions of Ukrainian progress on the southern front as well. Startling days ahead and just behind us here. Brianna?
Yeah, certainly are. Nick Payton-Walsh, thank you for that report.
Inflation.
Oh, no.